Conspiracy theory is a misconception when it comes to the specific subjects of this video. The interpretation of the Constitution is left up to the chain of command, which includes the Supreme Court. Covert operations are part of the Department of the Army and the military in general. Intelligence agencies are concerned with communication, which includes propaganda and psychological operations. The military will use whatever they have at their disposal to protect the philosophies of America. Most people do not understand the government or philosophy, and I would argue that this is by design. Mostly people at Ivy League schools and top colleges have studied philosophy to the point where they understand, for the most part, why people believe things the way they do. But ultimately, it is people who have been assigned a certain amount of expert power and knowledge power who direct the rest. This includes Supreme Court justices, chief justices, the president, the commander-in-chief, in other words, professors at Ivy League schools, and so on and so forth. I've shown you in the past clips of Joe Biden questioning a potential Supreme Court justice on how he would vote on microchipping. Most people, Americans, know that they do not like the Patriot Act, but they don't truly know what it says. So at the end of the day, most of the people who are parts of psychological operations don't really know what is going on. They're compartmentalized and they're just doing what they think they should, or what they're told to do. They're following orders. The problem is further exacerbated by the fact that there are secret societies that are in cahoots and in collusion with the government. When one does not understand how the system works, things seem to be conspiracy theory. But when one has a very basic understanding of intelligence agencies and their activities, it seems absurd to call these things conspiracy theories. And the more one understands how things work, the more apparent it becomes that these operations take place. And they include drug dealing operations. What is quite interesting is that even though there is this monstrous machine at work, that from time to time they slip up, and there's a little hint of what's going on here and there. MK Ultra being exposed, the church committee, the CIA bringing in drugs into the black community. It coming out that the CIA and the government pretty much started the LSD and the the psychedelic drug movement, acid, what have you. And they were looking for truth serums. And all this is mainstream. And that they, from time to time, have been caught trying to enlist the help of criminal organizations, such as the mafia, to take out Castro, and the criminal organizations that helped him with the MKUltra operations and the over 200 sub-projects associated with it. Because we know that they cover things up fairly effectively, it is safe to assume that they are covering the odds and the ends in my case. The people who are doing this, of course, they are racist. They're following traditions that were started by racist people and were passed down from generation to generation. For instance, when Freemasonry began, it was during a very racist time in history, long before slavery was abolished, long before multiculturalism was being pushed. The same thing with the American government. And the same thing with prison gangs and most street gangs. In fact, most people probably do not even know that it was a street gang that started the riots in Los Angeles. Both the Watts riots and the Rodney King riots. Most people probably don't truly understand why that is and how deep it really goes. Most of the members of those gangs don't understand that either, because it is the nature of government. They inherently compartmentalize their subordinates, and they proceed with caution, as they say, applying plausible deniability whenever possible. So therefore, it is really the careful observers in life who will know that I am telling the truth about being covertly drugged, because everything lines up with the past activities and the current activities of the government. The eugenics movement also began during a racist time, and I don't think anybody would deny that. And yet we find sterilizations being parts of plea bargains in Nashville. We find women in California on record in 2010 being coerced into being sterilized. The military has an oath to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Do they defend this country with squirt guns? Do they defend this country by playing patty cake, twister, and charades? No. They defend this country with technology, weapons, psychological operations, and propaganda campaigns. And they would like to believe that they defend this country masterfully, efficiently, and effectively. The bottom line is, when you become an enemy of the state, the gloves come off. They use microchips to track you, implanted and otherwise. They feel free to use chemicals on you through fumes or pills, dissolve them in your drinks. They use their massive network to keep an eye on you and to take advantage of misconceptions in society. For example, that psychiatry is a valid science, or that the mental health community understands behavior, or that when people behave a certain way, automatically it's because they're crazy, even though there are countless drugs being abused every day in America. Some of them are widely known: crack, heroin, marijuana, methamphetamines, acid, PCP, what have you, barbiturates. Some of them are next generation drugs being tested by the military on their own people, on volunteers, and covertly, in order to refine their tactics and to improve their ability to defend this nation from its enemies. Most people don't understand that America is not a Christian nation. It was not founded by Christians. It was founded by deists and Freemasons, for the most part. Rich people. Most people do not understand that when Thomas Jefferson helped found the Democratic Republican Party, it was the Democrats and the Republicans together, and then they split off. They have the same root. These rich, wealthy, affluent, big businessmen, when you really consider what was the equivalent to big business back then versus now, the very people that Americans distrust and detest founded both the major parties we have now at once. And they simply branched off. Rich industrialists and the governing class guided these two parties all throughout history until they transformed into their modern form. That is why they sell you out to big business, because they have always been controlled by big business. Propaganda has always been applied. And as America began to educate itself, and the average person started to increase their education, and more people became literate, there was a greater need to refine the science of propaganda to maintain the control of the corporatists, the oligarchs, and the aristocracy. Most people don't truly grasp that they are not free. They are simply part of the workforce. They are simply human resources at the disposal of corporate America. And what compounds the matter even further is people's intense desire to make themselves, their group, and their races look good. So racism is a big part of this. And once one becomes aware, they feel the need to lash out. And the longer the target becomes abused, they feel more and more of a need to punish their abusers. This is human nature. We see it all the time. Why do you think gang members kill each other? They're being abused by society in many ways. They're abusing each other. And after a while, that abuse seems unbearable. That, coupled with peer pressure, inevitably leads to gang-related homicides and gang violence. Why do you think the military tortures people, rapes the populations of the nations that they are occupying, especially during times of war? It goes back to the distribution of abuse and abuses. Channeling one's desire to retaliate, and to act on their complexes is a part of controlling society in general. Controlling their behavior, controlling how they think, feel, and behave. I tell you with 100% certainty, the final battle between the people and their oppressors will not be fought overtly on the political stage. It will be fought with great subtlety behind the scenes. And that battle will be over morality and against mental health. These so-called experts in mental health will be guided by a secret hand, the deep state, which control the CIA and the different networks of the secret society structure. That battle will be fought over morality and against mental health. Again, I tell you, hoping that you do not miss this, the final battle between the people and the ruling class will be fought over morality. And if you have been paying attention to the trajectory, the people will lose because they lacked the knowledge and the moral conviction to win. Individuals such as myself cannot win over the people and change their minds and get them to overthrow their oppressors. People will cling on to the misconceptions that mental health feeds into more than any other group, as they try to make even love seem like a mental illness. This makes people more controllable human resources. The love they have for their family and their significant others, be they girlfriends or spouses, will seem insignificant and more irrelevant as mind control is applied, rather deviously and in a particularly pernicious manner. The rich will be revered more and more, and when love and morality are destroyed, they will have their pick of the litter, as they say. If they want to have sex with a young boy, with a man, with a married woman, they will feel free to do that. But even marriage will be redefined. More and more people will believe in free love and open relationships, group sex, exchanging wives. The decline of morality will bring the ultimate defeat of the people. And sadly enough, the main social controllers in charge of political movements will cite the very texts and religious doctrines and scriptures that give the people their life, their spirituality, and the morality as oppressing the people. They will say more and more that Satan is the liberator of women, of minorities, of gays. And it is the Abrahamic faiths that have been oppressing them in the name of God. They will look at things in terms of philosophies and perceived social effects. the perceived effects they have on society. Going back to people's intense desire to make themselves look good and their groups, and to achieve progress for themselves, their political groups, their social clubs, their racial groups, their civic institutions, their military groups and institutions, their business groups and institutions. And in a very calculated manner, the exact type of manner that you would expect from the Ivy League schools, the top colleges, and the military industrial complex. You would expect nothing less, as they say, in this exact, precise, specific manner. They will incrementally achieve their milestones and their goals. This is the end for people like me, my friend. My friends, rather. We are headed for a new world, all right, and a new world order. One in which the rule of secret societies and their respective laws will supersede and all but destroy the ideas of morality and religion that come from very simple but righteous, correct, virtuous, and true groups of people. All the traditions that have kept the people together, just, and okay will be annihilated. Humanity will redefine itself. Not altogether, but it will be these surreptitious and clandestine groups acting behind the scenes, as they always have, guiding humanity in the direction that they see fit. One that makes people more disposable and controllable for the mega rich, the conglomerates, the transnational corporations. Their corporate greed will not be checked. It will run rampant. And the only men and women who try to stop them with no ulterior motives will be destroyed by the very people they were trying to help. Because these deceivers will take advantage of people's desire to make their groups and races look good and to act on their complexes. Big women will team up with feminists because they always desired to fit in more into society. Gays will team up with feminists because they always desired a more LGBT-friendly world. Satanists will team up with feminists to attack the Bible and the perceived patriarchy which they believe, or at least they claim to believe, oppresses women. The rich will team up with feminists and all these groups as the Republicans give them their tax breaks and they apply politics just enough to allow people to think that there is a legitimate political war being waged against the elite. But really, it is the very philosophies that they hope to propagate being pushed on the left, while the right gives them their financial cover, just enough to control the sentiments and the philosophies in society. When they finally accomplish their ideologies, most people will not have seen it coming. They will not understand how it got to that point, nor will they care, because they will believe, honestly, that the philosophies of Satanism have liberated them from the oppressive nature of God. That is what they will believe. It's all perception and misconception, misguidance, and disinformation. So now, having fought gallantly, headed for the last few breaths of my life, I tell you all regretfully and with deep despair and hopelessness in my heart, not for myself, but for society, that you all have betrayed me with your ignorance and your lack of Christian morality.